No. So yun, start na yung recording. So let's begin now. So chemistry, yan sabi natin, chemistry is study of change, no? Ay, ano yung notif na yan? Kala ko ano. Sige. So anyway, start tayo na. So chemistry, chemistry is just a science which studies changes, no? Changes ng matter, no? And when we study matter, basically what we're doing is that we are studying everything, no? Kasi alam natin that matter is anything that occupies space and has mass. That means lahat ng bagay sa mundo, lahat ng bagay sa universe ay matter, no? So that means itong calculator ay matter, may mass siya, it occupies certain space. Itong pencil, may mass to, may space na ino-occupy. So lahat ng bagay na nakikita natin, no? Kahit hindi nakikita, even the air, no? Matter yan because they occupy space and they have mass, no? So basically, chemistry is just the study of everything, no? So yun. Ngayon, ano ba yung purpose ni chemistry sa mundo natin ngayon, no? So marami, no? Kasi lahat ng bagay na meron tayo, no? Ito ay product ng chemistry. It is a product of understanding on how chemicals form different products or how materials possesses different characteristics, no? So yun, we are using those ideas para makagawa tayo ng mga medicine, mga gamot. For example, for the SARS-CoV-2, yung vaccine, no? Hindi naman magkakaroon ng vaccine without chemistry because si chemistry yung nag-identify ng sequence ng virus, no? So yun, so even yung nangyayari sa atin ngayon sa SARS-CoV-2 nga, yun ay may background siya sa chemistry side, no? Ano pa, yung mga kinakain natin, no? They are the products of chemistry din, no? So by the way, punta muna tayo dito sa slide, no? So saan natin nakikita yung chemistry, no? So we can see the effect, no, of chemistry sa ating buhay through health and medicine, no? Usually ginagamit yung chemistry in making vaccines, antibiotics, no? And yung mga gene therapy, no? Mga stem cell therapy, no? May mga chemistry background yung mga yan, no? So on and so forth, no? Also, the energy, no? Itong energy, isipin natin siguro mga engineers lang to, no? Pero hindi naman talaga, no? So may part din kaming chemist, no? Sa pag-utilize or pag-discover ng mga ways to harness energy. For example, itong fossil fuel, this makes use of combustion of matter, no? Nagsusunog tayo ng matter, usually in the form of coal, o kaya gas, no? Kaya tingin kayo sa LPG nyo sa bahay, no? If you have, ano yun, butane yun, no? Chemical compound yun that is combusting na lang, no? So yun, we can harness energy through the idea of combustion, no? Which will be discussed by chemistry. What else, no? Itong solar energy, no? Itong solar energy, this is a new field of energy harnessing material, no? Na gumagamit ng idea ng electrons ng atoms, no? They make use of the valence electrons of certain atoms such as silicon, arsenic, no? And so on, no? So they make use of their valence electrons in order to harness energy. So ano nangyayari nun? Kapag, kunwari ito yung solar panel, no? Tapos ito yung araw. If tumama yung photons, no, they excite electrons in the solar panel. And when they excite electrons, no, the electrons then passes through a circuit. And alam natin sa physics, no, that when an electron is moving through a circuit, that is electricity, no? So yun, ibig sabihin may chemistry background din si solar energy in a sense that it makes use of an atom's electron, no? Nuclear energy. Ito naman, another chemistry stuff to, which was discovered by several persons, no? Si Becquerel, si Curie, no? So they studied the chemistry of atoms itself, no? They knew that atoms contains neutrons, protons, electrons, no? Si solar energy, ang concern niya is electrons. Si nuclear energy naman, on the other hand, ang focus niya ay yung nasa nucleus, no? Ang nangyayari if you provided energy or if you provided a kickstart for the nucleus to disintegrate, then you will get nuclear energy, no? Yun yung ginagamit sa mga nuclear power plants, no? Sa Fukushima, at iba pang mga bagay, no? So, yun. So, these materials are products or these services, no, that we experience daily are products of chemistry, no? San pa? Ito, no? In materials, even yung mga plastics, no? Ang mundo, puro plastic ngayon, no? You look at your computers, yung mga plastic dyan, no? So, yung mga plastics natin, mga iba't ibang materials, aluminum, mga bakal, no? Even yung cellphone nyo, they are products of chemistry, no? They are products of understanding chemistry, no? So, focus na si polymer. What happens here is that meron lang organic compound, no, na pinagdudugtong-dugtong through chemical reaction, no. We call that process the cross-linking, no. Ayun. So, when you cross-link your organic compounds, they form sturdy materials such as plastics, no. Yung nylon, ganun din, no. So on and so forth. So, yun. Ano pa? Food and agriculture. Yun nga, yung mga GMOs, no. GMOs is not really harmful naman, no. Ano lang, meron lang talagang mga tao na nega. Ang purpose kasi ng GMOs is to enhance the productivity of a certain matter, no. Kunwari, I have a plant, no, and I want it to produce as much as possible, no, crops, no. Gusto ko mag-produce ng maraming crops, then I modify its genetic traits, no, through the understanding of biology as well. And then I give it supplements, no. Binibigyan ko yung plants ng enough nutrients, no, in order for it to grow fast, no. Ayan. Mga pesticides din, familiar tayo dito, mga Baygon, no, and yung mga fertilizers, so on and so forth, no. They are the products of chemistry, no. So, ano mapapansin natin? Chemistry is everywhere, no. And as long as you understand your chemistry, you will surely understand how this world is going on, no. So, saan papunta yung mundo natin, no. So, yun yung idea. So, when we understand chemistry, no, may dalawang systems tayong tinitignan, no. We see our systems in a macroscopic scale, meaning malakihan, no, as a bulk, no. Example, yung kanyang color, appearance, no. Yun ay mga macroscopic properties ng matter. Kunwari, yung bakal, nangangalawang siya, property niya yun, no. So, yun yung mga macroscopic properties that we study in chemistry also, no. So, yun. Ano pa? Other than the macroscopic side, no, we also understand the microscopic size, no, side of chemistry. Meaning lang ng microscopic is that we are seeing everything on atomic scale, no. So, yun. So, yung chemistry, malawak siyang understanding, no. So, ano yung ginagawa natin? We look at everything, no. We look at matter, how it behaves as a whole, yung macroscopic scale niya, macroscopic property, and how individual particles behave, no. Yun yung microscopic properties, no. So, dalawa yung inaaral sa chemistry, macroscopic properties and microscopic properties of matter, no. So, in studying matter, we have to follow what's so-called the scientific method, no. So, this is a method of understanding everything, no. This is not just only applied in chemistry, but in all fields of study din, no. Mga psychology, gumagamit din kayo ng scientific method in understanding human behavior, for example, no. So on and so forth. No? Kasi before the emancipation of chemistry, before it becomes chemistry, it is under the field of it is under the field of philosophy. No? Okay, so yun, bumukod lang si chemistry. So yun. So we have the same idea on how to approach something through scientific method. No? So what we do in scientific method is that, daming notification. What we do is that we observe something, then we get intuition about it. No? Kunwari, observe ko yung bakal, tignan ko lang siya. Tapos kunwari, pag binasa ko siya, nangangalawang, yun yung idea ko, na yun yung representative idea ng nangyari sa matter concept. Isipin ko na, o yung bakal, pag binasa mo, nangangalawang. No? Then you interpret it. Bakit kaya ganun? No? So, bakit naging kinakalawang yung bakal? Then, ang possible reason doon is that there is a redox process happening with your metals. That's why it turns into rust. No? Then, you do not end by that interpretation. No? Kasi siguro kung hanggang dito lang yung ending ng ng field of philosophy ng buong mundo, no? Edi ang dami ng interpretasyon, no? So, hindi, no? Hindi tayo natatapos sa interpretation, no? Anong ginagawa natin, no? We go back sa observation to test, no? Kung tama ba yung interpretation natin, no? So, yun. This is a cycle, no? In which we follow. In every step, we learn something. And in every step, hindi assured na tama yung understanding natin. And that's okay, no? Mistakes makes our life possible, no? Kasi kung ang ginawa ng mga scientists dati is tuloy-tuloy lang yung interpretation nila without testing that, patay na tayo lahat, no? Kasi there was this time, no, that they are using lead, no? Yung toxic metal, no? They use lead as sweetener sa food. And then later on, they discovered that lead is toxic nga, no? Nagkakos siya ng cancer. So imagine if the world didn't look at it again, no? Parang hindi niya in-investigate uli. Siguro lahat tayo may cancer na ngayon or baka hindi na tayo napanganak, no? Dahil sa mga ganong ideas dati. So yun yung good thing with scientific method, no? It approaches everything in a sense na you really have to revalidate everything you think, no? Yan, validate mo again, no? Paulit-ulit lang yan, no? Ayun. So, ang ginagawa din natin dito, no, is that we have, during our scientific method, no, habang gumagawa tayo ng understanding of everything, no, we create hypothesis, no? So, hypothesis, ito yung tentative interpretation, no? So, yun yung unang hinuha, no? Kung sa Tagalog, hinuha, meaning yun yung initial thought, no? Why this happened, no? So, bakit ganito nangyari? Siguro ganito. So, yun yung hypothesis, no? But again, no? Hypothesis is not the truth, no? Hindi pa siya yung katotohanan, no? That's why, what we do is that we use scientific method in order to refine those ideas. Hindi lahat ng hinuha ay tama, no? Hindi lahat ng naiisip ay tama. That's why we have to verify all those ideas, no? We get it tested and we modify it if necessary. Once we come to a point that everything agrees with our statement, then it becomes a law. So meaning ng law, ito yung bagay na katotohanan na talaga, which is usually proven with mathematics, no? So yun, for example, yung Newton's law of acceleration, laws of motion, no? These are statements, no, that are concise and proven, no, even mathematically, no. So yun. Ano pa, no? Pero kung wala tayong mathematical interpretation about that, no, what we develop is a theory, no. So theory naman is an understanding, a unified understanding on what happens sa ganito, ganyan, no. So, ano nangyari sa atoms pag nabasa siya sa tubig? Okay, mga ganong idea. So, recap natin ha. So, recap tayo. Sabi natin, scientific method, ito yung process in which you verify your ideas again and again. No? And as you do scientific method, no, every step, you develop your hypothesis. No? Hypothesis is just your interpretation, your initial understanding about the subject matter. But that is not yet the truth. What we do is that we test and we modify hypothesis, no, to further refine it for it to be acceptable. No? If you will be able to get mathematical relationships about it, then you come up with a law. No? A law is something that the whole universe agree with. No? It it follows the principles of how the universe works. No? For example, yung kay Newton, no? That can be observed not only on the Earth, but on the other planets, other solar systems as well. No? For example, yung uh, law of reaction, Newton's third law. Kapag may nagbangga ang dalawang planeta, nagbabounce din, no? Kasi ganun naman talaga yung nangyayari, no? So, yun. Again, no, when we say law, it is not only mathematical in approach, but it's also something that the universe agrees with, no? You can observe it everywhere, not only on the Earth, no? But when we say theory, ito yung mga bagay na walang masyadong mathematical proof, no? Ito yung mga ideas lang na we agree with, no? So, yun. Oh, may question tayo doon, Mariel. Okay lang tayo dyan.
Okay lang po, sir.
Sige. Ano to? So, ang kwento lang nito is yung the Big Bang Theory, no? So, Big Bang Theory, ano ba nangyayari doon? According to them, no, marami kasing understanding of the existence of the universe, no. May biblical approach in understanding the universe. Sabi doon, God created the heavens and the earth, hinulma niya yung mundo in His accordance, in His likeness, no? Tapos nagkatao, gano'n. So, yun yung biblical approach. Tapos meron ding mga scientific approach, no? So, ang pinaka-prominent na idea is that yung Big Bang Theory nga, no? So, isipin mo yung balloon. Di ba it expands, no? Kapag hinihipan nyo siya. So, ang idea nila before is that the universe just existed because of this Big Bang. So yun, idea lang yun, hypothesis lang nila yun, no? Until they found out, no, na that they see stars, no, going apart from each other. Ano meaning nun, no? Kunwari, ito yung isang star, ito yung isang star, lumalayo sila sa isa't isa. So babalik tayo dun sa balloon, no? Kunwari, may balloon ka, lagyan mo ng dalawang tuldok, hipan mo yung lobo, ano mangyayari sa dots? Maghihiwalay yung dots. The same is true daw for the universe, no? That's why they believe, no, that the universe is just, hindi mali yung English ko. The universe existed because of this expansion, which we call the Big Bang, no? So, yun lang. Share ka lang. Okay, so balik ulit tayo sa chemistry, no? Sabi natin chemistry is a study of matter and the changes it undergoes, no? And sabi natin kanina, matter is anything that occupies space and has mass, no? So, yun, lahat ng bagay ay matter, no? So, isa pang tawag natin doon sa matter ay substance, no? So, yung substances natin, ito yung mga bagay na may composition, meaning may certain number of atoms, at may properties, no? For example, yung alcohol, no? Yung alcohol ay substance, no? May equation siya, may chemical formula siya. So, yun yung kanyang composition. For example, yung ethanol, may 3 carbon siya, may 6 na hydrogen, may 1 oxygen, no? So, yun yung kanyang composition. Definite yun. Kahit anong mangyari, kahit saan ka pumunta sa mundo, yun yung formula niya. And then, yung property ng alcohol, it burns, no? It combusts pala, no? Nagliliyab siya. Nakakapatay siya ng virus, no? So, yun yung mga distinct properties nila. So, yun. So, sa chemistry, yun yung inaaral natin, mga substances, no? And kapag ginawa naman natin is yung substances natin ay pinaghalo-halo natin. Kunwari, alcohol pati tubig. Paghaluin mo, ano yun? Inuman na yan, no? Yung idea lang is, yung mixture, no? Yung mixture, yun ay composition lang ng two or more substances, no? And when we mix our substances, we form two different types of mixtures, no? We create homogeneous mixture in which the phase, no, the appearance is the same all throughout, no. Ibig sabihin kung liquid yan, liquid lahat, no. Pag solid yan, solid lahat. Pag gas yan, gas lahat, no. Bigay tayong example ng homogeneous mixture. Sige, Mariel, bigay ka ng isang homogeneous mixture. Siyempre, hindi yung nakalista sa PowerPoint. Any examples? Dali, Mariel, kaya mo yan.
Water and oil po.
Ang water and oil, maghihiwalay kasi sila eh. Kailan homogeneous lang? Ang iisang phase lang. Yung isang phase lang siya. Homogeneous mixture na isang phase.
How about sand po, sir?
Sand, pwede rin yung sand, no? Kasi yung sand, no, hindi lang naman, ang sand kasi yung composition niya ay hindi lang silicon dioxide, no? Yung silicon dioxide, yun yung mga particles ng sand, no? May mga nakahalo din dong minerals, no? So, yun yung buong composition niya, no? So, hindi natin observed yung difference between the two. So, yeah, it can fall sa homogeneous mixture, no? Isa pang example would be yung juice, no? Nagtimpla ka ng na orange juice, no? Yung powder na juice, nilagay mo sa tubig. Pag hinalo mo, tinimpla mo, nagiging liquid solution siya, no? So, that's one homogeneous mixture. Ngayon, isang example, pag haluin mo yung alcohol and water, so yun, homogeneous mixture din yun, no? So, the idea lang with homogeneous mixture is that iisa yung phase niya, no? For heterogeneous naman, hetero meaning magkaiba, no? Parang sa tao lang din, no? Yun, so hetero meaning magkaiba yung phases na. Or may distinct appearance yung isa't isa. For example, itong iron fillings and cement, no? So magkaiba kasing itsura nila na kahit i-mix mo sila, makikita mo pa rin, no? Ano pa example ng heterogeneous mixture? Yung tubig, lagyan mo ng buhangin. Ayun, magkahiwalay sila, no? May makikita kang solid, may makikita kang liquid, no? Nakikita mo yung appearance ng isa't isa. You cannot distinguish, you can distinguish one to another. Yun yung hetero. If you cannot, that's homogeneous, no? So, yun yung idea. So, again, summarize natin, no? Yung mixture, that is a composition of two or more substances, no? And when we combine those substances, we create two types of mixture. We have homogeneous and the heterogeneous. So when we say homogeneous, yung itsura niya is the same all throughout, no? It appears to be the same all throughout. Pag heterogeneous naman, it appears different, no? There is a distinct appearance ng isang substance with the other. So magkaiba sila ng itsura. So yun yung idea, no? And if we have mixtures, no, we can separate them by two means. May physical and by chemical means, no? So, punta muna tayo sa physical, no? So, yung physical means lang is you are separating mixtures into components, no? So, ano lang ginagawa nun? Kunwari, ano ba example? Kunwari yun nga, yung juice, no? Ano, may orange juice ka, gusto mo kunin yung tubig doon. Posible ba yun? Pwede naman, no? Ang pwede mong gawin is that you boil the water, so it becomes steam, it becomes vapor, then you condense the vapor. Ang process na yun ay tinatawag na distillation, no? So yun, we use distillation in separating liquids, no? So kunwari you want to extract alcohol from your alcohol bottle, no? For example, itong alcohol ko. So kailangan may alcohol ka rin, no? Kunwari ito 70% to, no? 70% alcohol. Meaning nun, 70 grams or 70 ml nito ay alcohol, 30% yung tubig, no? Kunwari gusto ko kunin yung 70% na alcohol, pwede ko gawin yun, no? So what I will do is that I will distill this alcohol. So paano yung distillation, no? You make use of their characteristics, yung characteristic ng alcohol and tubig, no? Ano ba yung characteristics nila? Yung alcohol na to may ethanol. Ang ethanol, this boils at 76 degrees Celsius. Yung water naman, nagbo-boil siya at 100 degrees Celsius. So, kapag pinakuluan ko yan, sino yung unang magbo-boil? Sino yung magbo-boil muna? Si ethanol or si water? Sige, Mariel. Sino yung magbo-boil agad? Kunwari, ininit ko to. Sino yung agad na magbo-boil? Si ethanol na 76 degrees Celsius ang boiling point o si water na 100. Ano, Mariel? Okay ka pa dyan, Mariel?
Alin po yung mas uunang maboil, sir?
Opo. Sino yung mawawala agad? Si
Guess lang po,
ethanol.
alcohol.
Yeah, if you have alcohol, this is composed of ethanol and water, di ba? So, yun. So, ang sagot is yung alcohol, no? Because of the low boiling point, no? So, yung boiling point kasi that is conserved, no? Meaning, if you create mixtures, you don't change those properties, no? Pag alcohol siya, mix in water, it still behaves like an alcohol, no? Regardless na water yung kasama niya. So, if you burn that, if you, heat it up, no? Unang mag-evaporate si alcohol kaysa sa water. So, you can separate your mixtures into your components, no? So, we do that by distillation. No? So, yun. Ito naman, this is for heterogeneous mixture. You can separate them physically by just picking up your particles or using magnets, so on and so forth. No? So, yun. You can also separate heterogeneous mixture by using filters. No? So if you have sand and water, you want to separate your sand, no? Hindi ilagay mo siya sa cloth, no? Sa filter. So you can separate the two mixtures. No? So you can. When we are doing chemical separations naman, what we do is chemical reactions, no? So ano ginagawa dito? Yung mga molecules nyo, you are separating them, no, into elements, no. So ganon. So ano uli yung balikan natin yung dalawang ways sa pag-separate ng matter, no. So the first way is we separate matter by physical means by using their physical properties. Boiling point, kung magnetic sila or not, no. We use those ideas. No? But if you want to separate the elements from substances, you are doing chemical reactions naman. No? So, yan. So yun. And the simplest form of matter is the element itself, no? Pwede mo siya makuha from substances. Yun. Tapos yung element, yun na yun. Hindi mo na siya pwede i-break down pa into much simpler particles. No? You cannot break down elements into electrons lang, neutrons lang, protons lang. Hindi na pwede yan. No? So, the end point is the element when doing separations. No? Okay. So what we know about elements, hindi pa to updated, no? So we have completed the periodic table already. So we have 118 elements, no, already. And we all know that by just looking at your periodic table, no? You will understand them in the future chapters naman. Okay, so yan yung mga elements natin. These are the common elements that we use, no? These are their symbols, no? So yun. Saka na siguro yan. Okay. So another type of substance is a compound. No? Ano naman yung compound? When you say compound, these are composition of certain amounts of atoms. No? So yun. You can make compounds by chemical reaction. You can break down compounds by chemical reactions then. No? For example, you want to make water, all you have to do is to combust hydrogen gas and oxygen gas. You will form water, no? Balance natin. Ayan. Pwede rin naman, no, na you can break down your water into elements, no? Ay, mali. Plus O2. Ayan. So, yun yung mga pwede gawin sa compound. You can create compounds by chemical reactions. You can break down compounds by chemical reactions then. No? So, ano yung pwede natin makuha doon? No? You can form elements, no, from compounds, and you can form compounds from elements. No? And the idea nga is they come up with fixed proportion. No? So that means if you have a water molecule, it always contains 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen, regardless. No? And any variation in that number tells you that it is a different compound. No? That's why yung H2O, that's different with H2O2. No? Bakit, no? Ang characteristic kasi ni water is that it always contains 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen. On the other hand, yung characteristic ng agua oxinada or hydrogen peroxide, it always contains 2 hydrogen and 2 oxygens. No? So, magkaibang bagay yun, no? So, yun lang. Yun. So, in summary, no? Ito yung pinaka-summary mismo. So, we have matter, no? Sabi natin, this is everything that occupies space and has mass, no? We can classify them into mixtures or substances, no? Okay. Pag sinabing substances, this contain the same molecules, the same atoms, no? So, ganun. However, for mixtures, you are combining different substances, no? You are combining different molecules and different atoms, no? Okay. So for mixture, you can have homogeneous and heterogeneous mixture. If you combine your substances and they appear to have the same appearance, no, you created homogeneous substances, no. Pero if you combined your substances and they created layers, no, or you can see the distinction between one substance to another, then heterogeneous mixture yun. Okay, so for pure substances naman, dalawa yan, no? We have compounds and the elements, no? Compounds are composed of atoms, no? The elements are the atoms itself, no? And this is the most simple form of matter, no? Ano yung idea pa? Our mixtures can be separated into pure substances by physical means, no? You can separate them by using their boiling point or just using filters, no? So, yun. Yung compounds naman natin, we can simplify that or we can separate them by chemical means, no? So, if you want to create hydrogen and oxygen atoms from compounds such as water, you have to do chemical reactions, no, to create elements. But if you want to create compounds from elements, pabaliktad naman, combination naman, then you can do it by chemical reactions then, no? So, yun lang. So, do you have any questions po?
None so far, sir.
Okay naman tayo dyan. Sige, magtatanong ako sa iyo. Ano ba pwede itanong? For example, you have your bronze medal. Bronze medal, pwede ka mag-google na. So, if you have a bronze metal, what type of matter is it? What is its classification? Homo, hetero, compound, elements. Sige. Bronze medal. Pwede mo i-google.
Sorry, sir. Can you repeat the question po? Sorry po.
Yeah. For example, you have bronze medal. No? The question is, ano yung classification niya? Is the bronze medal a homogeneous mixture, heterogeneous mixture? Is it a compound or is it an element? Bronze medal. May bronze medal ka. Alin siya dito? Ayan, 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 or ayon.
Homogeneous mixture po, sir.
Yeah. Because it is composed of
Copper daw and tin.
yeah. So what happens is that if you are going to make bronze metal, no, you're just going to combine copper with silver ba? I'm not sure with the other one, no. Basta the reason why it's brown is because of copper. Tin, no. So ang gagawin mo lang is you heat it until it melts, then you mix that, no. So yun. The distinction between two types of substances you have there cannot be seen, no. So di ba pag tinitingnan natin yung bronze medal natin, it appears to be the same all throughout, no. So hence that is a homogeneous mixture, no. Ano pa kaya? Kunwari, meron kang paracetamol, kunwari. Ayan, paracetamol. Yung tablet. Is that a homo, hetero, compound, element ay? Pare, may gamot ka. Kremil S, kunwari. By just looking at its appearance.
Homogeneous po, sir.
Homogeneous. Kasi, for example, yung Kremil S natin, it contains different compounds, no? It contains aluminum hydroxide, magnesium hydroxide, semidecone, mga ganong molecules, no? Then they compacted it to form a solid substance or solid mixture, no? If you are going to break it down, no, pag dinurog mo siya, you cannot see the distinction which molecules is which, no? So yun, no? So you cannot see the difference between those particles. So we will say na homogeneous siya, no? Okay, so yun yung, yun yung shortcut natin. If you cannot see the difference, homogeneous. If you can, hetero, no? So yan. Pag compound naman, they are all the same throughout, no? They contain the same molecules. Pag element, they contain the same elements. No? So yun. Note nyo na lang. Okay, so what else, no? So in chemistry, we also see 3 different types of matter. We will discover this more on intermolecular forces, no? So these are the types of matter that we deal all the time, no? Although marami pang versions of states of matter. So we have solids wherein your particles are compacted, dikit-dikit sila. For liquids, the molecules are not that compacted, no? So the molecules can flow. Pwede dumaloy-daloy yung molecules. That's why our liquids, no, they flow, no, tumutulo yung liquids because hindi compacted yung molecules niya, no. One molecule can slip into 2 different molecules, no. Pwede sila mag-ikot-ikot, hence they flow, no, or hence they are fluid. Gases similar to a liquid, but the difference is that the distance of the particles are much greater than that of the liquid, no? So, yun lang. Ano pa?
Sir, question po.
Sige.
Yung pag-gelatin po, saan po siya magfo-fall under?
Si gelatin kasi siya ay when we say gelatin, alam ko siya ay hindi siya pasok dito sa mixture. May new characteristic kasi, no? Late mga bago lang na-discover, no? Before all this, no? So, si gelatin, this is considered as colloids, no? So, si colloids kasi, parang pinaghalong liquid and solid siya, no? Pwede rin siyang pinaghalong liquid and gas, no? Pwede rin solid and gas, no? So, si gelatin in itself, no? It contains 2 or more states of matter, no? For example, yung aerosol, no? Aerosol is a colloid, no? Para ito, nag-spray ako ng alcohol. So, yun. It is a colloid, no? So, it doesn't fall into our criteria for matter, no? Kasi separate idea siya, no? So, yun. Si gelatin naman, may solid chunks siya that is enclosed in liquid chunks, no? Or liquid chunks enclosed in solid chunks, no? Ang tawag doon ata ay sol. Yung SOL, no? Yun yung kanyang classification as a colloid, no? So, yun. So, when you say colloid, separate siya with our types of matter, no? Although matter siya, ano nga lang sila? Weird, and they exist, and they possess different characteristics, no? As compared to pure substances or pure mixtures, no? Mga ganong bagay. So, yun.
Okay po, sir. Thank you po.
Even yung mayonnaise, no? Kasi pag titignan mo yung mayonnaise, it looks like solid. Pero pag ginalaw mo, liquid siya, no? So, colloid yan, no? So, yun. And we will discover more about colloids when we reach solutions, no? Chapter 8 at that, no? So, doon natin siya makita, no? So, for now, yung mga general lang tayo. Okay. So, when we understand matter then, no? We understand the changes they undergo, no? So, number 1, we have physical change and chemical change, no? Number 2, so physical change, ano lang nangyayari, no? When we have physical change, ang nangyayari is that there is a change on the phase of matter, no? So, yun, nagbabago lang yung phase ng matter niya. For example, you melt your ice, it is solid, turned into liquid, no? Okay. So, yun, phase of matter lang yung nag-change, no? So, that means the chemical identity of your matter do not change, no? Hindi nagbabago yung chemical formula niya, only the appearance. But when we have chemical change, no? Chemical change naman, ang nagbabago is not only the phase of matter, no? but also the composition of your molecules or your atoms. No? Nagbabago sila ng anyo. No? For example, you combust hydrogen with oxygen nga, you form water, di ba? So, yun, no? So, iba yung reactants natin, iba yung hydrogen gas, iba yung oxygen gas, iba siya compared to water. Kasi by looking at the proportions, this contains 2 hydrogens, 0 oxygen. This contains 2 oxygens, 0 hydrogens. But this contains 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygens. No? So as you convert your formulas, or as you change your chemical identity, if you change the chemical formula, you change the chemical identity. That also means that you change your properties, no? The physical properties. No? So, ayun, si hydrogen gas, gas siya. Oxygen gas, gas din siya. But H2O, this is mostly liquid, no? If you condense it, no? Pwede rin gas, no? Pero most of the time, it's liquid, especially if it is very humid, no? So, yun yung idea. So, again, no? We have two types of changes in chemistry. We understand matter based on their changes then. Physical change, nagbabago lang yung itsura. No? Nagbabago lang yung phases niya. Okay? But you do not change the chemical formula. For chemical change naman, you are changing the identity, no? Kung ano yung formula ng iyong substances. And this is usually accompanied by chemical reactions, no? Chemical formulas, no? So on and so forth, no? So yun, no? May bigyan kita ng isang example ng chemical change, no? Kasi when yung milk, no? When it spoils out, no? Napapanis yung milk. Although it seems na parang physical change siya kasi parang nagsiseparate lang yung layers, di ba? But what happens is that instead of physical change siya, naging chemical change siya actually, no? Kasi ang nangyayari, the reason why your milk spoils out is that may bacteria kasi, no, that consumes all the sugars in the milk, no? Yung mga lactose, no? Those bacteria digest those sugar molecules, then they convert it into other products, no? And yung other products na yun, you can see it when yung milk nyo, nag-separate siya into layers, no? The upper layer is usually the liquid, no? The liquid part. Then the lower layer, yun yung mga other byproducts ng digestion ng bacteria. So, yun. So, yun yung mga hindi obvious, pero chemical change yan. It appears to be a physical change, no? Kasi parang, nag-separate lang siya. Pero hindi na, chemical change yun. Ano pa example? Ikaw, bigay ka example. Isip din ako eh. Physical change naman, bukod sa yellow. Dry ice, no? So, siguro naman nakakita ka na ng dry ice, no? Yan yung block of, yung parang siyang yellow. Okay? So, what happens is that yung dry ice, it eventually turns into gas, no? Okay? So, physical change lang yan kasi that is sublimation process from solid carbon dioxide into gaseous carbon dioxide, no? So, yan. Physical change lang yan. Ano pa? Ayun lang. Wala na akong maisip eh. So, yan, no? So, okay naman tayo dyan.
Apo, sir.
Sige. So, if you have questions, you can raise them. Okay. So, ano pa yung inaaral natin sa chemistry? Daming inaaral, no? Ganun talaga. Wala tayong choice. Okay. So, sa chemistry, since sabi nga natin, yung matter natin, they possess properties, no? So, may dalawang uri tayo ng properties na tinitignan. So, ano yung dalawang yun? We have the extensive and the intensive properties, no? So one way to think of extensive properties, ito yung how it appears, no? So yun, ano yung mga extensive properties? Yun yung mga bagay that we see. Yun, yung pwede natin mahawakan, pwede natin sukatin, pwede timbangin, so on and so forth. So those are the extensive properties of matter, no? So pwede yung color, yung mass, no? Yung length, and yung volume. And what else do we know about extensive properties? Their value, no? Sulat ko muna. So, what we also know about extensive properties are, yun nga, yung values niya, meaning yung number, no? They depend on the quantity of your matter, no? For example, I have one textbook. Ito, isang libro to, no? So, ito yung bigat niya, kumari, 250 grams, no? Pag meron akong dalawang nito, ano nangyayari sa mass niya? Tumataas, no? Okay, that's because dumami yung aking particles, no? So, one characteristic of extensive properties is that they increase in value if you increase the number of particles. On the other hand, no, they decrease in value if you decrease the number of particles, no? For example, you have a glass of water, you add water, ano nangyayari sa volume? You add water molecules, the volume of the water increases, no? Same as sa mass niya, no? Kasi dumadaming particles, no? So, again, no? Extensive properties, these are properties that can be observed, no? Isa pang tawag dyan ay tangible properties, no? Yun. Yun, nakikita mo siya as a whole, no? As a whole yung tingin dito. So, yun. And your values depend on quantity. On the other hand, we have intensive, no, or intrinsic, no, properties. Meaning neto, ito yung something that is innate, no. When we say innate, characteristic na niya yun, no. Parang kung tao yan, no, matalino talaga siya. Yun yung kanyang, yun yung meron siya as is, no. So, ganun. For matter, they have properties that they possess as is because of their chemical formulas, no? Or because of their chemical properties, no? And yun nga, sabi natin, they do not depend on how much matter is considered. That means the value doesn't change, no? Regardless kung marami siya or konti siya, no? So, yun. So, yun lang. Ano pa ba? Parang paulit-ulit yung slide natin, no? Saan part na ba tayo? 19. Sige. So, okay naman tayo dyan.
Apo.
Sige po, no? Mamaya, no, before tayo siguro by 1:15, mag-cut tayo, no? Para may time para makita ko yung ano, kung ano yung nangyayari dun sa meeting daw. So anyway, so yun. Ano yung mga pinaggagawa natin kanina pa, no? So recall lang natin na para guided tayo. So, ang ginawa natin kanina, according to our kwentuhan kanina, is that yung math in chemistry, we understand two different aspects ng matter. No? How it behaves as a whole, that's a macroscopic property. Macro, ibig sabihin maramihan, in bulk. No? So we study matter as a whole, or we study matter as an individual molecule or atoms. No? So yun. So yun, we understood na in scientific approach, kailangan paulit-ulit, no? Para mas maging strong yung idea, no? Mas maging correct yung idea, no? So yun, when we come up with a very strong idea, no? We can call it a law if it is defined also by mathematics, do yun. Pero kapag wala, usually, theory lang yun, no? That's the principles, no? Or the ideas combined in general, no? So, yun. Ano pa, sabi natin, in chemistry, we understand matter, and we know that matter, they branch out into many different types of classification, no? So, yun. Meron tayong, mixture, may pure substance. When you say mixture, these are just composed of different substances, no? When you say substances, they either contain the same compound or the same elements, no? But not both. Kasi pag naging both yan, magiging mixture yan, no? So, ganun. So, mixtures, meron tayong homogeneous. That means they appear to be the same. Merong heterogeneous. There's a distinct difference between those particles, no? But yun nga, may isa pang new classification about mixtures, no? We call that colloids, no? Which we will discuss on chapter 8, no? Ano naman sila? Yung particle size kasi, yung basis ng separation ng matter, no? Okay? It just so happened that they are in between the range for homogeneous and heterogeneous. May particle size kasi yan, no? Kwentuhan natin yan pagdating ng chapter 8. So, yun. So, yun, inalam din natin that we usually see 3 different types of matter, no? Sa chemistry. Sometimes they can coexist, they may not, no? And we also realize that in studying chemistry, we also study changes, no? Na pinatutunguhan ni matter, na yung ginagawa ni matter. So, we have physical changes, chemical changes. For physical changes, you just change your composition. You just change the physical appearance, no? But for chemical change, you change your composition. Hence, the property is also altered, no? So yun, extensive and intensive. Anong kwento natin dito? Extensive properties. These are properties of matter that change depending on the number of particles, no? If you have many particles, then that value will change. So, ano yung mga yun? Mass, length, volume. Intensive naman, this is something that is characteristic or that is innate, no? Sabihin, regardless of the volume, no? Regardless of the mass, ito yung kanyang density, no? Ito yung kanyang temperature, so on and so forth. So, yun. Okay, so balik ulit tayo, no? Ano yung ma-observe natin, no? For us to study chemistry, it also requires an understanding of measurements, no? Bakit kailangan mag-measurement ng chemistry to, no? Ganito kasi, no? If you want to quantify, kasama kasi sa chemistry yung pagbibilang, di ba? In order for you to understand kung intensive siya or extensive property, di ba? You are looking sa volume niya, sa dami niya, no? So, that means, for us to study matter, we should also understand measurements, no? So, yun. Maraming ways of measurement, tatlong versions yan, no? Meron tayong mga imperial systems, no? Na hindi natin ginagamit. Only the United States, yung mga pounds, miles, feet, no? So on and so forth, no? So that's one system of measuring, no? Measuring stuff. The second one is the metric system, no? And the third one is the SI system, or the SI units, no? So yung metric and the SI system, SI units, no? Same lang to, no? Very good. So yun, alamin natin kung ano yung mga types of measurement that we know in chemistry, no? Sige. Number 1 sa mass, what we're doing here is that we just measure the number of particles, the number of matter, no? But hindi siya individually, no? As a whole, no? So, for example, kunin ko yung mass nito, hindi ko bibilangin yung particles, no? Instead, ang gagawin ko, I will measure its weight na lang, no? So, yun. Kung ano yung force that matter exerts on me, no? Yun yung mass, no? Or weight, no? So, yun. So the SI unit for mass is kilogram, but in chemistry, we just use grams, no? So yun. So another one is weight. Yun yung ano naman, ito nga yung force na ina-exert ng objects natin on us, no? It is analogous to mass, meaning may similarity siya with the mass. Although meron kasi siyang external factor, no, that affects its value, no? So ano yung external factor? Yun yung teka lang, sulat ko. Yun yung G. Ano yung G? Ito yung external value that affects the weight, no? This is the gravitational acceleration. Okay, so yun lang. So analogous siya with the mass, no? It is something that is that tells us on how many particles are there, no? Indirectly, no? Pero for the weight, no, affected siya by the gravitational acceleration, no? Depending on which celestial body are you in, no? For example, nasa Earth ka, ito yung gravitational constant, 9.8 meters per second square. Pag nasa Mars ka, 3.711. Pag nasa Moon ka, 1.6. No? So, iba-iba yung gravitational constant. But the mass is still the same. No? So, yun yung idea. So, yan yung way natin to measure mass and weight. No? So, the two are analogous, but weight depends on which celestial objects are you in. No? So yun, these are the SI units, no? These are the units of measurement that we use up to now. So if you want to measure distances, we use meters, no? Okay. So yun, when you want to measure mass, you use kilogram times second, electrical current, ampere. Ito yung mga last part din na natin gagawin yan, no? Temperature usually in Kelvin, but we have other scales, no, such as Celsius and Fahrenheit scales. Amount of substance is moles, and luminous intensity is candela. So ano yung luminous intensity? That tells you about the brightness of an object, no? So physics na yung gumagamit niyan. Sa chemistry, ano yung ginagamit natin dito? Itong anim na to. The meter, the kilogram, the second, ampere, Kelvin, and mole. No? So these are the most common units that we use in chemistry. No? So yun lang. No? And with SI units, we can also use prefixes to expand our measurement. No? Okay, so ito yung kagandahan with the metric system or the SI units. No? It is expandable. So for example, you're going to measure distances in imperial system. Kunwari, feet, no? Wala kasing kilo feet, di ba? Wala naman decifeet, centifeet, no? Walang ganong bagay, di ba? So, for example, if you are going to report a huge distance, no? Ay, di sasabihin mo yung full numbers, di ba? Kunwari, 5,000 feet. Di ba? Ang dami. Wala naman siyang 5 kilo feet, di ba? So, yun. So, yun lang yung pangit with the imperial method. You cannot compress big numbers, no? Unlike with SI units or the metric system, you can compress big quantities, no? Or small quantities, no? You can compress all their zeros, no? By using powers of 10, no? Hence, we have these Greek prefixes, no? So, do you have to remember this? It would be better, no, if you know all this, no. Pero okay lang kahit hindi, no. Kasi you have your, naman, no. You can look at this, no, anytime naman, since online class tayo. So, yun. So, but you have to be familiar with the common units that we use, no. So, ano yung mga common prefixes pala na we use? We use centi. That's 1 of 100, no. 1/100th. Milli, 1/1000th. Itong micro, nano, no? So, yan. Kilo. So, yun lang na may mga ginagamit natin sa chemistry. Okay. So, mapapansin natin that it seems that our SI units are restrictive in nature. Meaning nun, parang limited lang siya dyan, no? We have no way to measure volume. Not really, no? Kasi, remember, the formula for volume, according to geometry, it is just the length cubed, di ba? So that means, if you want to measure volume, all you have to do is to modify your SI unit, no? Para ma-match siya doon sa ating desired quantity, no? For example, yung volume niya. So yun. So gagawin lang natin is that we are just going to raise our unit of length to the third power. I-cube lang natin yung length, no? So ayan. So the SI unit for volume is cubic meter. So how does a cubic meter look like, no? Para siyang isang drum. Yan. But the downside of that is that we do not use isang drum ng tubig sa chemistry. Hindi tayo gumagamit ng drum na tubig. Instead, we use small amounts of liquids, no? Hence, we do not use cubic meter. Instead, we use ml or cubic centimeter, which are equivalent naman, no? Given by this equation. So yun, we use ml, we use liters, so on and so forth. Density naman, this is another form of measurement, no? Na it tells us how much matter you have in a certain volume, no? So, ano meaning nun? Gano'ng karaming particles yung confined in a certain volume, no? So, yan. It is also something intrinsic with matter, no? Because the distances of particles are constant regardless kung gaano karami sila. That means the density is still the same, provided that the temperature is the same. So yun. So density, that is just the measure of how many particles you have in a certain space. No? So that's why the formula is mass over volume. Mass tells you how many particles are there. Volume tells you the space they occupied. So density is equal to mass over volume. No? Feeling ko yung calculations mamaya na lang. Itong mga nag-message nito ito akin sa faculty eh. So yun na. So anyway, no. So ano po yung mga kailangan natin gawin mamaya? Mamaya magsasolve tayo, ha. Magbibigay tayo ng further assessments on density, no, so on and so forth. But again, yun nga, the idea is that density is just the ratio of the number of particles confined in a certain space, no? Mass over volume. Madali lang yung formula niyan. If you are given, ano ba sabi dito sa problem? A piece of platinum metal with a density of that as a volume of this, no? What is the mass? So if you are given such problems, all you have to do is to do some manipulation. No? You have to rewrite the equations. No? So, yan lang. So, one way of doing that is, of course, you have to remember your cross multiplications. No? Pwede rin naman yung triangle. Feeling ko familiar ka with the triangle. No? So, yung last nyo itong ginamit sa physics. No? Yung VIR. Dito pala yung V, dito yung I, dito yung R, diba? Ginamit nyo yan, diba? Sabi nyo, voltage is I times R. Sa chemistry, may mga ganun din tayong counterpart, no? For example, itong density. Dito yung density, dito yung mass, dito yung volume. If you don't want to do cross multiplication and stuff, you can use your triangles, which uses the same principle naman. So if you're going to look for density, all you have to do is to divide mass by the volume, m over b. Kung gusto mo hanapin si volume, if you want to look for the volume, this mass over density. If you want to look for the mass, that is just density times the volume, provided that they have the same units, so they can cancel out. No? So as you can see, dito yung density natin, it contains units of gram per cubic centimeter. For the cubic centimeter to be cancelled, your volume should be in the same unit, no? So yan. Magka-cancel out yung dalawang yan, giving you the final unit for mass which is grams, no? Pero in cases na the units do not agree with each other, meaning magkaiba sila ng units, ano gagawin natin? Co-convert tayo. So yun. Okay, so these are some densities of usual materials, no? And they are constant provided that they have the same temperature, no? So, in the future, makukwento ko kung bakit kailangan constant yung temperature for density, no? Especially when we go to gases or intermolecular forces, no? 11:16 na. Siguro up to 11:20 na lang. Sige. Okay, so ano pa yung mini-measure natin sa chemistry, no? In chemistry, we also measure temperatures, no? So we have three predominant temperature scales, no, that we use until now, no? We have the Kelvin scale. This is the SI unit. The other units are Celsius and Fahrenheit, no? Degrees Celsius and degrees Fahrenheit, no? So bigyan kita ng historical background on this, no? So before pa naman, no, mga around 18th century, the first temperature scale ata was Fahrenheit scale, no? So yan. What's noticeable with Fahrenheit is that this makes use of body temperature, no? So it is based on body temperature, no? So yung scale na ginawa niya, that is fit for humans only, no? For example, pag may sakit ka, automatic 100 degrees Celsius, 100 degrees Fahrenheit dapat yung lumabas sa thermometer. For convenience yun, kaya siya naging 100 degrees, no? Para makita nila, uy, may sakit to. No? Dalhin na to sa ospital. Yan. But, on the other hand, no, gumagawa pa sila ng iba't ibang uri ng temperature scales, no? Yung Fahrenheit, this is based on body temperature, no? Pero si Celsius, ang ginawa niya, binasa niya ito sa water naman, no? So what Celsius did, no, which is quite good, no? Sabi ni Celsius na, I will use water instead of humans, no? Instead of body to measure temperature. So, kunwari, ito yung scale niya. This is his temperature scale. Pag nilagay niya yung water, may water siya. Then, observe niya that the water is freezing. Then, sinabi niya, ay, 0 degrees Celsius to. Then, if nag-apply siya ng heat, then the water started boiling. Then, sabi ni Celsius, 100 to. Then, anything in between is just ratio and proportion. So, yun yung history niya. But, the best definition, no, for temperature would be Kelvin, no? That's why it is the SI unit, no? Ano ba yung purpose ng SI unit, no? The purpose of SI unit is to make units or to make measurements not dependent on objects, not dependent on persons, not dependent on body temperature, not dependent on water. Ang gusto ni SI unit is that to have a system of measurement that is independent from physical objects. Rather, gusto niya is yung mga units i-base natin on universal of materials, no? Ano sa universal materials, yun yung mga atoms, photons, no? Electrons, so on and so forth, no? Si Kelvin kasi, his basis naman is atoms, no? So yun. According to Kelvin, his temperature scale works like this, no? If yung atom, it is not moving, then you have 0 Kelvin. You have no temperature reading. Okay? But if your atom started moving, then they can release heat energy, which can be read by thermometers as temperatures, no? Then, once your atoms are moving, no, gumagalaw-galaw na sila, then you have your temperature reading. The faster the energy, the faster the movement of your atoms, the higher your temperature would be. And that is the reason why, no, they adopted the definition of temperature as the average kinetic energy of atoms, no. Ay, ano nangyari? So, yun yung reason bakit the definition of temperature is the average kinetic energy of atoms, no. It just dates back to Kelvin, no. Siya kasi nakaisip ng ganong idea. And the scientists found it pleasing because it is not based on physical objects, no, but rather something that is universal. Wala namang kasing water sa ibang planets. Wala namang tao sa ibang planets. So, their scale are not acceptable for those planets, no? But we know that in the universe, we have lots of atoms, no? Ito yung ginamit nilang universal definition for temperature. Hence, this definition. So, yun lang muna, no? Okay ka pa naman dyan, Mariel?
Yes po, sir.
Sige. Mamaya mag-solve tayo, ha? Mag-ano lang kami ng meeting mamaya. So, siguro I'll see you around 3 past 3. Sige. So, yun lang muna. Sige.
Okay po, sir.
Thank you for listening. And yan, you can start answering items na if you want. Sige. Balik ako mamaya.
Thank you po.
Thank you then.